So today we are at Zamil to do our interview with Mr. Zumah, the Operations and Production Manager at Zamil Central Air Conditioning. Before we begin, I would like to have a brief introduction about yourself, about your career at Zamil, and about a little bit of your background, just to set a perspective.
Basically, I'm an industrial engineer, a graduate of King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, class of 2009. I joined in 2010, joined Zamil Central Air Conditioners as an industrial engineer under manufacturing engineering under the umbrella of operations business unit. Since then, I worked in the factory for all the optimizations of the factory processes, introduction of new methods and new type of procedures and new machineries and new tools to optimize the production and to have better output and better productivity.
And so you basically started at the factory level.
Yes. So that gave me a good background on how things on a macro level is going on, and then by moving toward a focus point of the assembly line itself, it gave me more focus on the product itself, the varieties of the products, the assembly point of view, especially that assembly lines more of manual processes.
And then in 2014 you moved to?
From 2010 till 2013 I was industrial engineer in the factory. Then from 13 to 15 I was in the assembly line.
So from 2013 to 2015 you were in?
Yeah, in the assembly lines as the manufacturing assistant manager.
Okay. And then 2015?
Then, yes, 15 I moved to the sourcing, the supply chain business unit. And I started with the sourcing and VRM, vendor relationship management. Then after 1 year, I took over the complete department as the sourcing and purchasing manager. And it was at the beginning for Zamil Central Air Conditioners. Then it became Zamil Central Air Conditioners plus Zamil Spare Parts, and again by end of 2017 it was the complete HVAC sector was under the corporate sourcing and purchasing.
So these are the divisions that were added to your portfolio.
Yes.
While you were
purchasing and sourcing manager.
While you were the purchasing and sourcing manager. So Zamil Central and then Zamil
Spare Parts,
and then
the consumer division. Yes.
Okay.
During this period, we established the new logistic department, or the logistic function under the sourcing and purchasing, in order to have more control and more optimization on the supplies of the material, and to have a better grasp of the uncertain factors that was happening, and to provide also a great logistical support to the material expediters and the port operation.
So Mr. Zumah, how many people report into you approximately in terms of structure, in how many divisions and how many people are reporting into you?
In the recent
yes, in the recent
yes.
Now that you have promoted?
Yes, I have 8 managers, and the total people under me is 750 employees.
750 employees and 8 managers.
Yes.
So there's a lot of employees, because most of them are on the factory floor, and then
That's
they have
correct.
the production heads reporting to them. So
that's correct. Yes.
I see. So you said, Mr. Zumah, that you went to the King Fahd Petroleum University.
Yes.
Right? So in that, what kind of experience you gained from your education that is helping you here to help you to become the leader that you are today?
Well, the major itself that I was majored in, the industrial engineering, is basically a collective field that gives you tools and strength points in both in management and in engineering as well. So this particular field has given me the chance to excel in any field that we can put our hands on, and to establish a definitive process map, and seeing what's the input, what's the outputs, and what are the issues faced by the users, areas of improvement.
Mr. Zumah, in the current scenario of pandemic, what was the challenges you faced, and how did you overcome this situation under your leadership?
Well, the pandemic itself has impacted almost all the aspects of the business. starting from the supply chain itself and our relationships with the vendors, all the way to managing the people and ensuring all the precautions are being exercised with minimum impact to the production. So the impact was huge. And so that gave assurance to the employees, and we were there for them. I was visiting the shop floor, although many others at the beginning were very much hesitating to visit the shop floor, and people felt that they are alone in the war zone, and the marshals and the captains are under the protection of the concrete buildings, far from all the issues. So I've been doing regular visits to the shop floor, to the people, to comfort them, and at the same time to make sure that there is no hesitation in the implementation of all the precautions that they need to do. And if I would go to the most impacted one and the critical one, what we were doing basically was the supply chain. But we were able to have a very much good control on the damages that happens. Back then, when the pandemic started, I was just recently moved out from the supply chain area to the factory, and I was still having many issues we have solved based on the relationships that we are still having with the vendors, and we have revisited all the pending orders and all the delays, and we have done a huge exercise on having substitutes, quick substitutes and quick solutions, and reprioritize things. And with the help of our logistical arm as well, we have managed to change many mode of shipments just to bridge the gap of all those supply chain challenges.
Now, Mr. Zumah, you were talking about challenges currently faced after the pandemic in terms of supply chain, procurement. Now, in our studies, we've come across theories of nearshoring, servitization, and improving supply chain. Has such programs been taken up by Zamil?
Yes. We have classified our main suppliers based on their average actual lead time, and by lead time I mean the manufacturing lead time. So based on that, we have classified vendors of more than 8 weeks lead time manufacturing as critical vendors, and 8 or less as normal vendors, since most of our lead time to our customers is within 3 to 4 months. Above than that, we should do something about it. Now, we have classified the material of each vendor of those type of high lead time, and then we have explored with them the following options, either of starting an agreement with them on a certain nearby distribution center or a hub, and we successfully completed with Emerson, for example, compressors. So now we shifted from placing orders to each factory in different countries, and now all our orders are being placed to Dubai, and we are getting the compressors directly from Dubai.
So immediately when you come to the inventory management, supply chain,
yes.
So this is a major problem most of the companies face during the pandemics. How did you overcome this situation as a manufacturing company?
Well, we have done lots of things, starting from revisiting every single order and discussing with the customer directly on the challenges for his particular order. Now, so as I said, lots of initiatives came even from material people, from engineering, from design, from assembly people. Some items that we used to buy regularly, we have developed in-house and we fabricated, and it turned out to be a good solution to continue on. So that pandemic has given us also new opportunities to visit, and you know, necessity is the mother of invention. So we had a couple of items like mounts that we used to buy, and we've proven during this pandemic that it's something easy, it's something we can do by ourselves, and we can still ensure the quality and the output. And it was surprising because most of these type of solutions came from the process owner themselves, which is the assemblers on the assembly line. They come up and say, we have an idea, because we are implementing the Kaizen program. And this is part of where we are listening to the employees, since they are on the pain areas. They can feel directly and they can tell us what they are facing and how they think should be the solution.
So this is the Kaizen board that you were referring to. How long has this been in operation in Zamil, the Kaizen concept?
It started, I think, back in 2004, before I joined. And it's a continual program since then. And even every 2-3 years, we are sending the top performers of the Kaizen to the Kaizen Institute in India for further trainings and further recognition on their best output of the Kaizens as well. Some ideas came from them and were implemented immediately, and then when proven to be a good substitute, we also gave them rewards on their initiatives, which has given more spirit to the rest to come up with more ideas. Also, since we are an engineering to order type of business model, and this is by the way the more complex business model you can visit, we end up usually with some leftover material that we cannot use. It was purchased for certain order, but that order get cancelled, and most of our material are purchased on demand and with high specification only required for this particular job. So you always have that leftover material that you try to get rid of over the time. We have had a good chance during this to utilize as much as possible of this material, which people used to hesitate during the normal days or the good days where you have the actual material coming, so you don't need to bother yourself of trying to utilize that material, although it's part of their KPIs. But once you have no solution and everyone is under the pressure of delivering, then ideas will start come. So we have consumed good portion of that, I would say, non-moving material. It was almost like 40 to 50% of that material has been consumed, with many creative ideas of some changes, some adjustment, and it can work as a substitute for the material.
So, Mr. Zumah, you discussed about the pandemic and how you go through it. What is your work ethic?
I have 3 major rules that I usually promote and try to make sure that everyone is getting the actual value behind it. First of all, I encourage mistakes. People usually tend to avoid mistakes, and to a certain level where they will stop doing certain things just to avoid the mistakes and to avoid the blame. And I have made it very much clear to everyone that you do whatever you want, and all mistakes is part of your training and has nothing to do with your performance and or your any implications that will happen. So that has given many people a little bit confidence to stretch and go beyond their comfort zone, since there is no impact or no effect of their mistakes. Secondly, and this is the major one, I keep telling all the engineers and managers that even the most entry-level employee, you can still get good information from, and I have exercised this in front of them in many deep technical meetings. I have purposely called for the assembler guy himself, and he attended the meeting and he gave his feedback. And in many times there were certain highlights of an area that we have missed with our sophisticated engineering details, and we came to know that the solution is very, very tiny and simple to what we were thinking about. So this has given everyone that regardless to your position or your degree, you need to get feedback bottom top and from peers as well. And lastly, and this is also, you can see it's one of the major, I would say, negative points in some areas. If it's there, then that's impacting a company or a business, which is admitting a mistake. Someone, you can see usually some issues will take months and weeks to get resolved because everyone is trying to say it's from the other party or from the other team, and it's difficult for a person to say, I'm very much sorry, this is my mistake, however, we will do 1, 2, 3 to rectify.
So, Mr. Zumah, you mentioned twice sandwiched your ethics with two parts about mistakes. Now, is this intuitive to you or as a person, or have you learned this from a role model?
It's mostly from a personal experience from my early days at work. And basically, this is what we as peers we always discuss when we start thinking of an initiative. This is one of the main challenges that hold us back. Is what if something wrong goes on or some mistake happens? Sometimes we refrain from getting involved in some higher level discussions just to make sure that we don't say the wrong thing or we don't look less informative to the rest of the people. And that has delayed our development and delayed our improvement and excelling in our career path. And then I had a close mentor, which was Robert, the previous operation director. Without knowing, I would just find in Outlook's appointments for certain trainings, and then I come to know it's from Robert sending me for.
So Mr. Robert was basically a mentor for you. So
Exactly.
he mentored you through the ranks to take over when he left
That's
your
correct.
organization. In terms of now you studied management. Now do you consider yourself a learned leader or a born leader?
I would like to think of this question as my own people who's reporting to me to give that feedback. Anyone would say much of himself. One of the things that Zamil has is something called the 360 assessment. So I know that I have very much improved over the last 10 years. Where I'm right now, I would like to believe that my mission is to make sure to nurture and develop leaders as well, more of just subordinates and supervisors who just pass things to the next level.
So now we're here with Mr. Farhan, who's the materials and production manager for Zamil Central Air Conditioning, who is a direct reportee of Mr. Zumah. And what is Mr. Zumah's leadership style and skill, and how does he, how is he in terms of mentoring his team?
See, Mr. Zumah is a very, I can say, a good leader where we would like to work with him. He carries the team along with him. As a leader, he doesn't leave us for any issue to solve. He comes along with us to solve the issue. And as a factory point of view, since there are issues on a everyday basis, so I could say that he's a very aggressive in solving the issue. He's very helpful to the team in terms of solving the issue, not only related to production, whereas apart from production issue also. So as overall, I can say Mr. Zumah as a leader, anyone can like to work under him.
So Mr. Zumah, you have budgets, monthly budgets you set, and also you have annual budgets that are set. So how do you manage to set your objectives for your team and yourself, and how do you manage your business development goals and sustainability goals as well?
Okay, when it comes to budget and goals, these are all part of our annual operating plan that has been proposed by the business units and on the previous year once the target has been set for the next year. So based on the target that has been set by the top management, these KPIs will be cascaded down to each business unit head, and from there KPIs will be cascaded further down to each and every single employee.
Mr. Zumah, when you look at the manufacturing plan, are you going ahead with the monthly plan or the quarterly plan or the annual plan, or do we have any 5-year business plan?
Okay, since we are engineering to order type of business, basically our monthly production is seasonal based on the orders received. So basically we don't produce anything for stock.
Mr. Zumah, can you think of anything that you would do differently in terms of business or leadership if you had any chance to redo again in another enterprise or another company?
All of us need to catch up these type of practices, and I'm referring to, for example, the Industrial Revolutions 4.0, which basically about connectivity of your resources and your machineries and your equipments, plus the digitalization and the digitization of your processes, which will give more accessibility, fast recognition of foreseen issues that may happen, and areas to focus on rather than all the manual, extensive work that we do normally.
In terms of using technology and innovation, what is it that you have implemented at Zamil to take this into Industry 4.0?
What we have started with is we have started implementing dashboards just to have a dynamic grasp of what is going on not just daily basis but even hourly basis. This has been a great project that we have worked on. In the previous, it used to take a couple of days sales and summary details of production and where we are in terms of the target and how much still balance, where are the issues, and it used to be multiple reports that you have to follow up and ask for and review, and they are totally unlinked to other people.
Mr. Zumah, what is your advice as a business leader, as a operation manager in the Zamil group? So, what are the ideas you have to give for the new generation?
Nowadays things are changing quickly and on daily basis in terms of the information, the know-how, the knowledge, the methods, the standards, and everything is getting changed. Continue to enrich yourself and improve all the time on new things. There is no such thing as the only way or the correct way. There is always endless number of ways to do things. I'm now giving this instructions to every new engineer, to every new manager. Everyone needs to have a good team, involve the team. We should not be once you stop growing or improving, you're disposable at any time.
If you describe yourself in one sentence, how would you say that?
I would say I'm part of a team.
So thank you, Mrs. Zumah, for your time for this interview on leadership and business development as part of our module 512 for the Postgraduate Institute of Management in Colombo, Sri Lanka.
Exercised freely by everyone.